28 people were aboard a ship in the Antarctic Ocean, but their ship was trapped in the middle of millions of tons of ice. They had been stranded in one place for 7 months. During that time, one night, they heard a loud sound from beneath the ship, and simultaneously, the ship tilted to one side. It felt as if someone had tried to push the ship forcefully from below. What happened next was beyond their imagination. Welcome once again to Time Titans Network video. Ladies and gentlemen, the Antarctic Ocean, where waves are as high as buildings, winds blow at 100 kilometers per hour, and the water temperature is so low that human blood starts to freeze. Traveling in this ocean is like embracing death. Even if you survive the cold and waves, ice chunks as large as mountains have the capability to easily crush a ship. But 111 years ago, when neither technology was so advanced nor ships, in this terrifying sea, a ship carrying a group of 28 people got trapped. Under the open sky, they spent not just a few weeks or months, but amazingly, a full 2 years. As far as the eye could see, only ice, stormy winds, shortage of food and water, and no chance of calling for help. This is such a survival story that the world has named it the greatest survival story of all time. The hero of this story is Sir Ernest Shackleton, who was an explorer, and his mission was to test the endurance of human strength. That's why he named his ship Endurance. He had undertaken many dangerous missions in his life. In 1901, he was part of a mission to reach Antarctica, but returned from 750 kilometers away. In 1907, he embraced this mission again, but had to turn back just 150 kilometers before. And this time, in 1914, his plan was not only to reach Antarctica, but to cross this continent on foot. The reason was simple. Sir Ernest Shackleton wanted to do something that no one had done before. This mission was named the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition. And because the nature of this mission was quite dangerous, no one was willing to go on it. For Sir Ernest, the first challenge was to find a crew for his expedition. Then he wrote an advertisement and published it in the Times newspaper. Remember, this was not an ordinary tour operator's advertisement. Its opening words were, "Men wanted for hazardous journey." It clearly stated that wages would be very low. There would be deadly cold to face. They would have to stay in darkness for months, face dangers every moment, and there was no guarantee of safe return. Sir Ernest wanted to attract people who were not afraid of dangers. Soon, he hired a group of 27 people. Sir Ernest had been planning this mission for 4 years. But as time drew near, his expedition dream began to fade because World War I had begun in the world. Everyone thought that perhaps the expedition would be cancelled now. But Britain, which had itself declared war, gave permission to the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition. For this mission, an extremely strong ship was needed that could cut through the ice-covered Antarctic Ocean and move forward. But this was no ordinary ship that could be easily built. Fortunately, such a ship already existed for Arctic travel. A Norwegian company had built this ship for another explorer who wanted to take the elite class of that time on polar bear hunts via this ship. But his business model flopped. Sir Ernest bought this ship and named it Endurance. Endurance was specially built with thick American oak wood, and the design was such that the wood could withstand tremendous ice pressure. It was a kind of hybrid ship that had both sails and an engine. Finally, the day arrived that Sir Ernest had been waiting for many years. On August 8, 1914, Endurance began its journey from the English city of Plymouth. For the next 4 months, they continued traveling in the Atlantic Ocean. First, they went to Argentina, then from there to South Georgia Island, and after completing final preparations there, on December 5, 1914, they directed the ship toward the Weddell Sea in the Antarctic Ocean. Endurance carried 28 people, along with 50 large breed dogs, which were to be used to pull equipment and supplies in Antarctica's ice. The journey continued for 46 days. And now they were just 1 day away from reaching Antarctica's coast. But then on January 18, 1915, the first disaster blocked their path. What happened was that the ice layers on top of the Weddell Sea became thicker and thicker, and at one point, these layers became 18 feet thick. and now Endurance didn't have enough strength to cut through them and move forward. This ice was so weak in places that starting the journey on foot from here was also not possible. Endurance was trapped in ice approximately 130 kilometers before its destination, Vosel Bay. Initially, it seemed that perhaps this problem had come temporarily, but actually, this proved to be the biggest problem in the path of the Imperial Trans-Antarctic expedition. After trying continuously for many days, they decided to manually push forward the 300-ton ship. After continuously working for the next 2 days, cutting ice and making a path, the crew became completely exhausted. But this work was more difficult than they thought. After many days of hard work, they could move the ship forward only 300 meters. But after that, Endurance got stuck again. After a month of attempts to free the ship, finally on February 14, 1915, Sir Ernest lost hope. He decided to leave the ship to the natural movement of the ice. Perhaps when winter recedes, the ice would break on its own. During this time, Endurance was serving as a winter station. The crew began doing their routine work in it, but the only difference was that the ship was now standing in one place. The crew's spirit was very high, and Sir Ernest had established discipline on the ship. They would stay busy throughout the day, having discussions, playing soccer, cutting each other's hair, and spending time cooking, just waiting for the day when the ice would break and give them a way forward or backward. Days passed on Endurance, and everyone became closer to each other. Even an emotional attachment developed with the animals. Everyone hoped that one day they would reach near some civilization. But perhaps nature had something else in mind. In April 1915, the ice did start breaking, but due to increasing pressure, ice layers began climbing on top of each other, and this was an extremely unexpected event. Millions of tons of compressing ice also started putting pressure on Endurance. At this point, it was most important to free the ship from ice pressure. Therefore, everyone together worked to remove the ice. After weeks of hard work, this disaster was averted, but the danger still remained. On the night of July 14, 1915, suddenly a loud sound came from beneath the ship, and Endurance tilted to one side. No one knew what had actually happened. Was it a whale collision or something else? Somehow the night passed, but what they saw in the morning was unbelievable. The compressing ice layers had not only tilted the ship to one side, but now its rudder, which is used to turn the ship, was completely broken. Endurance's crew had now been trapped here for 7 months, and they were at least 2,000 kilometers away from any human population. No contact with anyone, no hope of calling for help. If they had hope in anyone, it was Sir Ernest Shackleton. October 18, 1915. The dreams of the Imperial Trans-Antarctic expedition were shattered. The mission's crew had been stuck in one place for 9 months. Then one night, suddenly a wave of pressure comes, which tilted Endurance 30 degrees to one side in the blink of an eye. Now the danger of the ship leaking began looming overhead. Water also started filling inside in some places due to cracks. The entire crew worked together all night so that somehow water couldn't fill inside the ship. But the shelter over their heads perhaps lasted only till here. On October 27, 1915, Sir Ernest Shackleton gave the order to evacuate the ship, because this was now the only way to save lives. Essential supplies were taken out. Animals, food, and water, lifeboats and bedding, etc. Everything was taken out, and now the entire crew was forced to come onto the ice sheet under the open sky. The ship that had been their support for many months was now breaking and being destroyed before them, all under ice pressure, and slowly began sinking into the water. Now only one question was coming to everyone's mind. How long would they wait on this floating piece of ice? Sir Ernest Shackleton decided that staying here was not without danger. He knew about Paulet Island, 550 kilometers away, where there used to be shelter and supplies. But to reach there, the support of just 3 lifeboats was not enough, because for ice that could break such a large ship, what would these lifeboats be? Therefore, it was decided to walk to this island. They started their journey toward Paulet Island, which was the most dangerous part of their adventure. For the next 6 months, the crew faced life-threatening dangers. The ice sheet on which they would camp would either develop holes or start floating with the water current. Fortunately, These ice sheets were floating slowly toward Paulet Island. Therefore, Sir Ernest decided that they would reach Paulet Island by floating on the ice sheet. Their food and water had all finished now. Whatever they found on the floating ice sheet-like island, they tried to hunt it, like penguins and seals, etc. February 1916. It had now been 13 months since they set out on their journey. Now the condition was such that they had become like people surviving on just one biscuit at a time. Waiting for Paulet Island for the next month, conditions became so bad that they had to kill their dogs too. Now provisions were arranged for the next few days. They hoped that upon reaching Paulet Island, they would get some supplies. But the floating island on which they were riding changed its direction and began going toward Elephant Island instead of Paulet Island. For the next several days, there was a stormy scene in the sea. The temperature dropped to -20 degrees, and many crew members started getting frostbite. Their mouths and tongues had swollen so much that even swallowing something was difficult. In no time, April 1916 arrived. With the support of broken ice sheets, they somehow managed to reach Elephant Island. For the first time in 16 months, they were touching a piece of land. On Elephant Island, they took a breath of relief. But this island was completely barren, and staying here for long was not possible, especially after the food supply ran out. There was only one hope, and that was South Georgia Island, 1,300 kilometers from here. Sir Ernest Shackleton decided that he would undertake this suicidal mission of going to South Georgia Island in a lifeboat. He chose some people from the crew, and on April 24, 1916, departed from Elephant Island for South Georgia Island. This route is considered one of the most dangerous sea routes in the world. They had to face waves that were up to 90 feet high. The freezing cold was so severe that every part of the body started freezing. Along with all these difficulties, they had to make this journey without GPS and without a compass, only with the help of stars and the sun. Every day, despite putting in their heart and soul, they couldn't cover a distance of more than 80 kilometers. After 16 days, on May 10, 1916, finally Sir Ernest Shackleton and 5 crew members managed to reach South Georgia Island. But there was one problem here. They had reached the wrong side of South Georgia Island. Before them were 4,000-foot-high mountains. After 36 hours of continuous climbing, they finally reached the other side where the whaling station was. Shackleton's condition was so bad that people at the whaling station couldn't recognize him. No one could believe that Sir Ernest, who had left about a year and a half ago, had reached here in this condition. After staying in South Georgia for 3 days, Sir Ernest set out again toward Elephant Island, where he had left 22 people in bad condition. He made several unsuccessful attempts to reach Elephant Island. Finally, on August 30th, 1916, from a distance, he saw smoke rising on Elephant Island that was lit as a signal. Sir Ernest didn't know how many of his people had survived, but upon approaching, amazingly, he found all the Elephant Island crew alive and safe. They had first left England on August 8, 1914. After a full 2 years and 22 days, he brought his entire team back home, safe and sound. Of course, he never completed his actual mission. Even before, he had made 2 failed attempts to reach the South Pole. And in the Imperial Trans-Antarctic expedition too, he got stuck 120 kilometers before. But this survival story of his gave them a status that perhaps he couldn't have gotten even by completing the mission. 107 years after this incident, in 2022, Endurance was finally found in the Antarctic Ocean. Endurance still exists 3,000 meters below on the ocean floor, preserved in absolutely perfect condition. Even the name written on it can be read correctly. I hope you will also fully like and share this Time Titans Network video. Thank you very much for your love-filled comments. See you in the next amazing video.